Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne here alongside J.D. Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and J.D. If you're just tuning in, first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for spending part of your Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, whenever you're watching. Thank you. We appreciate it. If you like what we do, go on down below and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out with all those fun YouTube algorithms that all of the professional YouTubers make their living mastering. This week, it's a big one in horse racing, folks. Place right back here just had its opening day earlier today. We are recording this on Thursday night. It's where I made my bones as a handicapper. It's where I grew up in upstate New York. I am, of course, referring to the one and only Saratoga Racecourse. We've got some other big stuff going on this week as well. Del Mar opens up on Friday. Monmouth is hosting its Haskell card on Saturday. A lot of stakes races there. The Haskell, of course, featuring the likes of Mandaloon and Hot Rod Charlie. But you know what? Saratoga overall is what I always say. So for this show, we're going to focus on the Saturday card up at the Spa, the first Saturday card of the summer meet. We have a very special guest, JD, and he doesn't need any introductions, but I'm going to give him one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. You may know him as a handicapper. You may know him as somebody from the DRF video team, as well as the author of the Highlight Horse Things that I actually used to edit and post. And you may also know him as the morning line man for the New York Racing Association. This guy wears so many hats, I think he's got heads we can't see. David Aragona joins us tonight. David, thank you very much for stopping by, man.
Happy to join you guys. It's an exciting week in racing and excited to talk about this card on Saturday.
There's a lot of excitement going around, 11 races, a couple of graded races, including the Grade 1 Diana. We've also got the Sanford for 2-year-old colts, which is always really exciting. And in fact, just judging by the rundown where I see Saratoga season is here, this man, he knows his co-hosts and he knew which way we were going before we even had to have a pre-show meeting. But we are recording this, as mentioned, on Thursday night, July 15th. The first 10 races of the Saratoga season have come and gone. A lot of fun things on that opening day card, and we've got to start with Golden Pal, man. This is a freakishly talented turf sprinter making the seasonal debut in the quick call, and my goodness, that was impressive. I texted JD knowing how much of an Australia homeboy he is and knowing how good the turf sprinters are down there. I don't know if there is a turf sprinter in the world that can beat the horse we saw win the quick call going 5/8 of a mile on the grass.
Yeah, he looked really good today. I mean, he won by open lengths, obviously did it within himself. This was not the strongest field of 3-year-olds. I think we're allowed to say that. I mean, the horses with turf experience that were facing him just hadn't proven that much. But he was as visually impressive as he was last year. It looks like he's come back in form. I know Wesley Ward's always been really high on this horse. So he's going to get, more steep challenges in the future. But it certainly looks like he still is able to fire his best shot.
Now, JD, I know you have some opinions here, so go ahead.
Yeah. I will say that Andrew did not caveat that it had to be a 3-year-old, so I immediately said Eduardo, and I'm like, yeah, we'll compare a 7-year-old to a 3-year-old that's still working. And actually, with August just around the corner, Eduardo's about to turn 8, but obviously had a great campaign closing out, winning, 3 in a row, all good group company races. But we're not here to talk about Australian racing today for once because it's the winter season in Australia. We're here to talk about Saratoga, Andrew, but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about Eduardo, my favorite horse in training in Australia right now.
Every once in a while, I've got to, give you an assist on a wide open layup. It's the co-host duty, especially when you're the one pushing all the right buttons and making me look as non-repulsive as I can possibly look. Also, we had the Schuylerville, and this was a big one. Norm Cassie getting his first graded stakes win at Saratoga with a horse named Pretty Birdie, owned by Mary Lou Whitney Stables, a very popular name in Saratoga, of course, for a lot of reasons. But got to tell you, David, while the winner wound up running a really good race, that runner-up might have run probably the best race that you'll see from a 2-year-old filly that lost with how much trouble she had at the start.
Yeah, I mean, the race, you could kind of see it play out the way it was going to finish at the start because you figured those two would hook up on the front end, and Mainstay just broke about a length slowly, and Pretty Birdie was able to get that advantage on her right out of the starting gate. And I think being out on the front end for these 2-year-olds that don't have a lot of experience yet and really have only run that way, it gave the winner a big advantage. But I thought they both ran really well. I mean, they were obviously dead tired at the end of the race. It was a pretty demanding racetrack today. I think we saw a lot of slow times, so they kind of both fell apart at the end of the race, and Pretty Birdie was able to hold on. But like you were saying, it's really cool to see those Mary Lou Whitney silks in the winner's circle. Obviously, this is a homebred, and if you look through this one's pedigree, both the sire and the dam were bred by Mary Lou Whitney stables. They actually both trace back to that foundation mare for her that produced Birdstone and Birdtown. So just really cool all around with the winner. But they both look okay. They'll obviously be players in the stakes upcoming at Saratoga.
One of the things.
All right, one more, Andrew. Mainstay. The sire, of course, Astern, the Group 1 winner of the Golden Rose, Australian breeding. It's the best. Go on, Andrew.
No, so it's actually probably fortuitous that you interrupted me and tried to save John Hendrickson this, because John Hendrickson, Mary Lou Whitney, of course, were an item. Hendrickson is now running Mary Lou Whitney Racing. They interviewed him on Fox Sports for the broadcast, and you could see he was choking back tears. It was opening day at Saratoga, fans back in attendance after not being in attendance during the 2020 season. Special for him for a lot of reasons, and a really cool moment. Kudos to all involved, by the way, on that Fox broadcast. 1 down, 39 to go, and I'm always looking forward to their stuff because everyone involved with Fox Sports, with NYRA, with everyone associated with it just does a tremendous job.
Yeah, totally. Especially last year when a lot of us couldn't be at the races at Saratoga, they kind of brought it to us as much as they could. So, I mean, a lot of us got really familiar with the program last year, and I'll be excited to watch a lot of it this year. I will be making it up to Saratoga a little bit later in the meet, but for the next couple of weeks, that's how I'll be viewing the races.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, this year Saratoga's a no-go. 4 weddings in 6 weeks later this fall. That'll drain one's vacation bank. And when you consider I just started a new job 3 months ago, there wasn't a big bank there to start with. So unfortunately for me, I will not be making it back to this place or to this beautiful little place up in the sky that those will know as the Press Box. Of course, really going to miss Pedro, the Press Box master chef, and his wonderful hot dogs late on the afternoon. The one regret I have from my time in Saratoga, Mike Jarbo and I never had the hot dog eating contest that would have sold out. I repeat, sold out. And I would have taken them too. I'd have taken them.
I have partaken in those hot dogs every once in a while.
You have to. They're free and they smell really, really good. Now, we've been talking a lot about some really good stuff, but JD, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
What's the minimum bet for the Pick Six at the New York Racing Association?
It's $1.
Would you like to explain what happened today?
Not everybody had it for $1.
That seems like a problem.
No comment.
Okay, so on a serious note, though, we are going to talk about some of the wagering changes you might see at Saratoga this meet, as well as some cool stuff that you might see on Saturday. And for as much as I bust JD's chops, he actually did raise a really good point about the possible cause of the issue and the fact that, hey, there is a 20-cent Pick Six, but it's coming up on Saturday, and it's a very interesting format.
Yes, so it is 4 races at Monmouth, 2 races at Saratoga. So it's going to be Monmouth races 8, 10, 11, and 12. Saratoga races 9 and 10 that we'll talk about in our sequence here today. Lots of graded stakes action, 20-cent minimum wager, low 15% takeout on that wager on Saturday. Unfortunately, being in Arizona, I can bet on the Saratoga card. I cannot bet on this because it has Monmouth Park action. So I will look forward to everybody else taking down what should be a great pool between Monmouth and Saratoga. And really, we're seeing some unique things and NYRA doing some things. Obviously, I think more tracks are getting involved in the cross-country Pick 5, depending on what the best races are. We've seen, Maryland action in there. We've seen Woodbine action. We've seen a little bit of everything over the years there. And I think this new Pick 6 they're offering with Monmouth should be an exciting wager for everybody on Saturday.
Yeah, that's for darn sure. Really good card at Monmouth. You've got Mandaloon and Hot Rod Charlie going head-to-head in the Haskell, as well as a couple of other graded stakes races on that program. Before we go into the handicapping side of things, I need to take a little bit of a diversion here, and that is, as I mentioned at the top of the show, David isn't just a handicapper and a darn good one. He's also one of the best morning line men in the business. And if you're going to be a morning line man in New York, you better be good or the railbirds are going to let you hear about it. So we got to spend at least a little bit of time talking about that. And I guess the first of my two-part question here, David, is how do you reconcile the difference between the public handicapping side of things and the morning line side of things, which are two very different jobs, and I don't think a lot of people really get that.
Yeah, they are very different. And, so I think some people don't realize at times that when I get a morning line wrong and a horse wins, it's not really a good thing for me. It's still a bad thing because it means that, the horse didn't go off with the final odds that I thought it would. So yeah, the morning line is all about just trying to peg down what the public is going to make certain horses and have all the prices kind of mirror what I make on the morning line. I mean, it's not easy to do and it doesn't work out in every race, but I try to get as close as possible. And then, the handicapping side of it, it really is different. You kind of have to put aside all of those opinions that you figured the public would have about the races and just try to get inside your own head and figure out, well, where is the value actually going to be? If I'm right about the way the public bets this race, where do I want to go? Who do I think the value is? And then you have to craft your wagers. And wagering is even a separate thing from being a public handicapper because you make your picks, 24 hours ahead of time, if not more for some public handicappers. So you kind of have to see how things actually do shake out on the board and adjust your opinions from there.
Yeah.
And obviously with NYRA, we're talking about some other things too in morning line creation. We've got MTOs, we've got coupled entries, we've got pretty much the gamut of things that they can throw at you, David. They do.
Yeah, I mean, big fields. I mean, it's great for the bettors. It's a little bit of a headache for me at times, but it's fun. I mean, I enjoy the challenge and all of those 2-year-old races with the firsters. I mean, those are the ones that take me the longest because I try to turn over every stone, look up all the pedigrees, the workout videos, trainer intentions and stats, and try to get as close as I can. But yeah, it's really rewarding when I get those right. But I enjoy doing the work.
And that's the thing. Making a morning line, folks, it's hard. It's not just trying to figure out, okay, who's the public going to bet, how much they're going to bet, whatever. There's that sliding mathematical scale, and everybody's got their own different way of trying to hit a certain number. I was always taught 115 to 125. I know people who say 130. There are certain handicappers at some tracks that don't seem to have a scale. We'll leave that alone. But it is one of those things that is far tougher than it looks. And I'm a firm believer that if you're one of the people who solely spends time on Twitter just bashing morning line people nonstop, you got to try to make one. And then I think you'll get a much better appreciation for the work that David and the fellow morning line makers out there do on a daily basis. It is not easy, and it is not a job for people who are thin-skinned, especially in New York. Now, the one thing I do want to ask you before we move on to this late pick 4, there are some misconceptions that people have about the morning line and the work that goes into doing it. If you had to pick one thing that you wish the public knew or wish that the public understood a little bit more about what it is that you do, what would it be? Because I imagine in your position, you get a lot of questions from people asking why things are certain ways. You probably get a lot of things from people who think they know more than you do about the way that things should be done. And there's probably a certain time where you reach the limit of saying, okay, that's not quite how this works.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that, when people are looking at it from an outside perspective, they might weight certain factors really heavily, like who's the jockey? Is this a trainer change that's positive or negative? And, for me, it depends on what kind of race it is and how I weight all these different factors. And, it's not an exact science. I just kind of have to get a feel for each race. And, some people might say, oh, well, why'd you make this Irad Ortiz horse a bigger price than it should be when he always gets bet? And I mean, obviously, I know Irad always gets bet, but I mean, there are so many other factors at play. So I'm just trying to make the best sense of it that I can. And sometimes I'm wrong about it, but I mean, I'm trying to make sure that all of those factors are weighted appropriately. And then the other is what I was getting at before, it's not my opinion. So, I mean, I could make a horse a really short price. Let's say it's a first-time starter and I saw some workout videos. close. And to me, to my eye, the horse is working really impressively. Seems like the trainer's going to win first time out. I'll make that horse a really short price. And let's say I didn't have great information about the other firsters in the race, and that horse's price drifts up. Well, I mean, it's still a commentary on what I saw and what I think other people would see in that horse. So, the horse might do well, win at a bigger price. And I would still get the line wrong, but I feel like trying to guide people in those races, it's still giving useful information. I mean, I don't quite get these people that say that there's no use for the morning line anymore, because, there are a lot of people who are handicappers of all different levels. And, some that are experts may, not want to see the morning line at all. But a lot of people start by looking at the morning line to kind of gauge where they're going to find the value and then kind of extrapolate from there. So I think it's still a useful tool. It's just something that you have to determine how much it means to you.
Sounds like a lot of different handicapping products out there that if you overanalyze it, it becomes less and less useful over time, but you use it in the proper context and all of a sudden a lot of different things start opening up for you. There's a handicapping lesson in there somewhere, but I'm nowhere near articulate enough to teach it myself. So I'll let you all be the judge of that as we move on to the late pick 4 on Saturday at Saratoga. As mentioned, it is an 11 race card. So the late pick 4 kicks off in race number 8. We've got some big fields. We've got some good fields. This one is both 3-year-olds and up going 7 furlongs over the main track. And if this doesn't look like quite enough horses to you, don't worry. We've got 2 more on the very next page. Nice work there, JD, being on top of the switcher. Horse number 12 in your program, Mahamal, is the 5-2 morning line favorite. But if you look at this field, you're going to see some familiar faces. You're going to see some potential rising stars. This is the sort of race that people are going to look back on in a couple of months and potentially see 3, 4, 5 next out winners. It's a darn good race. JD, who do you want to kick things off? You're the one driving the train.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, I'm going to go with the bookends in here, and I am using Mahamal. This is a horse that hasn't done a whole heck of a lot wrong. Debuted running second, beaten less than a length by First Captain, who's a very promising horse. Came right back and did everything he was supposed to do next time out, earning a 99 Beyer speed figure. The outside post, obviously, a big plus. You get Velasquez and Pletcher. This horse is going to get bet in for good reason. Wouldn't be shocked if that horse won, but my top selection is actually Bo Liam. Horse number 1 in the program off of a very impressive win last time out at Churchill Downs. Now, it is very early in the meet. I stress this, but a lot of horses coming from Churchill Downs ran pretty well today, David. So I think Bo Liam may well be sitting on a big race, and you don't see the swamped foes line all that often in the description of the running of a race. That's exactly what Bo Liam did. And all he did that day was go 6 furlongs in 108.3, winning by 7.5 lengths. This is a horse trained by Steve Asmussen. The workouts don't quite look all that special, but it's not like he was working all that quickly before that debut win, and it didn't seem to bother him much there. If Bo Liam steps forward, I think we could see a heck of a performance. He's a 3-year-old going against older. Who knows? Maybe we see him in the Allen Jerkins later on in the meet. 112 for me, and I'm a little bit confused by this, and I'll throw this to whoever wants to answer it, and JD, you can maybe direct this. So I wanted to like Crowded Trade in here. I did. This is a horse that's supposed to be good. 2nd in the Gotham, 3rd in the Wood Memorial, ran 5th in the Preakness, albeit well beaten by Rombauer. Hasn't run since, has been working well. But if Crowded Trade is supposed to run well in this spot, why is Chad Brown also saddling the 7 in here? And why does Irad Ortiz Jr. ride that one? It's very confusing to me, and that's the reason that I couldn't throw Crowded Trade on the ticket. I'll just go with the bookends here, 112.
And David, I think you're thinking similarly to Andrew, but you've got one other horse you want to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I threw into the mix that horse that Andrew was just talking about, Crowded Trade. I feel like one of these 3 is likely to win this race. I'm interested to see how the public bets this race. When I first saw this race drawn on Twitter and I was talking about it, I called it the Grade 1 Allowance M1X because it just feels that way. I mean, you rarely see non-winners 1 allowance races that have this many horses with 90-plus buyers that are coming off such impressive maiden victories. If I had to kind of rank these horses, I also put Bolium on top. I was pretty impressed by his debut at Churchill Downs. I mean, just to expand upon it, he broke alertly, but he was pretty handy, and he allowed some other horses to go inside of him. But those two other horses that were contesting the pace in that race, they finished far back in the pack. The race was really dominated by closers behind him. He just ran away from them. So I was really impressed by that performance. Steve Asmussen doesn't have the greatest numbers coming off debut wins in general, but I find it hard to really look at Steve Asmussen's stats given how many circuits he competes on and how many assistants he has. He's actually run back just 2 debut winners at Saratoga in dirt sprints over the past 5 years. One was Yopon, and we saw what he did last year. So Bolium feels like a pretty serious horse to me. Mahamel, I mean, he obviously has run well in both career starts, not just well, better than average for those maiden special weight races in New York. He did miss a planned start in the Dwyer. I think he had just a minor temperature or something that caused him to miss that race, and he's been training back since then. I don't think he's like the flashiest workhorse, but he gets it done, and he's drawn well on the outside, whereas Bolium his hand is going to be forced by drawing the inside. I think that's the negative with Bolium. He's going to have to go from the rail. And perhaps if things do heat up on the front end, it sets it up for crowded trade. I'm not sure what to do with crowded trade. He's kind of a confusing horse for me. I mean, he ran so well sprinting in his debut, and he took that big step forward next time out of the Gotham. And, maybe it was just the fact that it was too much too soon in races like the Wood and the Preakness. And, I'm not convinced that he can't go longer, but I think turning back at this stage of his career is the right move. It just depends on how much pace he gets to close into in this race. And, the comment you were making about Chad Brown and the riders, it's interesting. Chad is a guy who kind of once he assigns one of his riders to a horse, and when I say his riders, I mean the guys he usually uses, like both Ortiz brothers, Castellano, now Flavian Prat, he tends to stick with that one rider. So I think just the fact that Castellano rode this horse in the Preakness, it kind of means that he's got the mount now if he wants it. So I don't make too much of the fact that Irad is riding Witzel. And Witzel's an interesting horse. He's just going to have to really improve on the race that he ran at Tampa over the winter.
Now, you mentioned the Wood Memorial, and that is a race that is near and dear to the heart of one person on this show. David, J.D. was one of about 4 people in the universe that bet Bourbonic. So if you noticed him levitate a little bit when we started talking about crowded trade running well in the Wood, that's why.
How about released that Bourbonic was going to win the race over a week before the race, and then did a video 3 days before the race about how Bourbonic was going to win the race? You're underselling it, Andrew. Anybody can go up and bet. I was loudspeaker saying that Bourbonic was going to win that race. Was I crazy? Probably. It worked out that time. But speaking of crazy things, I do crazy things. Bolium not on my ticket. I'm looking at the figures. The numbers look great. The times look great. It was a great, effort. But who was really Bolium running up against? If you look at next out winners in that race, there's one, and it was the 8th place finisher Espionage, and came back to win a $30,000 maiden claimer at Churchill, versus the competition level that's Bolium's facing in this field. I'm just going to take a sit and see approach. This is also screaming bounce to me because I'll disagree, Andrew. I mean, there was a 47 flat work for Bolium before the debut win, and I'm just not seeing that turn of foot. I'm seeing some maintenance works over 5 furlongs. There's nothing on this page that's screaming excitement other than the speed figure from the first out effort. So I'm willing to be wrong there, and I'm going to add a couple horses here to the conversation. I really like 10 for 10. The 5 horse is going to be my top play in here for Shug McGahee, Jose Ortiz on top, and we're seeing 10 for 10 cut back to the 7 furlongs for the first time. Ran 6 furlongs on the debut. Ran really well on the Remsen. Obviously, everybody looks at Brooklyn Strong hasn't necessarily come back the strongest. Known Agenda had a glimmer of hope winning the Florida Derby, but hasn't been the same. But I mean, still, that was a strong race and beat Known Agenda in that spot by 8 3/4 lengths, and in the second place effort, going to be near the speed, and maybe a little further back going the 7 furlongs. Maybe Ortiz of the Jose variety sets up for one run sitting off the speed. And I think Mr. Sippy has a long shot chance in here as well with Junior Alvarado up. I don't think we're going to see fronted Mr. Sippy here stretching out to 7 furlongs. I do think we're going to see some more tactical race riding from Alvarado, sit off the pace and try to make one move with this horse. It's got a lot of talent by Run Happy. out of the Artie Schiller mare, Mississippi Queen. Good pedigree there for this distance, and I'm seeing it just a little differently. I am going to include Crowded Trade as well, because I think Crowded Trade is probably the most talented horse in this field. Is this circumstance the best for Crowded Trade? Probably not. But you look at this first level allowance with the $103,000 purse, there's a lot of options here that are going to be $150,000, $200,000 stakes. So taking this shot to clear the first level allowance with that big purse, I don't think this is a crazy spot for Crowded Trade. So I'm 5-8, 10-12 in leg number 1, Andrew.
Who was the sire of Mississippi again?
Your favorite horse of all time? Run Happy?
Never heard of him. Never heard of him at all whatsoever. Let's move on. Since we're not getting the money, we don't hear from him. Race number 9 is the Grade 3 Sanford Stakes for 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs, one of the biggest fields in the history of the Sanford Stakes. And you know what? Let's just see here. Yep, we got more horses than one slide can handle. A field of 12 going postward for this one. The heavy favorite is number 1, Wit, and for good reason. A very visually impressive performance on Belmont Stakes Day, going from 7 lengths back to winning by 6. That's sort of an eye-popping effort. It'll move some money, especially given the fact that it's a Todd Pletcher-trained, Mike Rapoli, at least in part owned, Erod Ortiz Jr. riding. This horse is supposed to be favored. Would it shock me if he won? Probably not, but drum roll, please. There was no drum roll, but I'm just going to roll with that. I'm going 4 deep without using him here, just simply because I think he's going to be an underlaid price in those multi-race exotics. And look, if you're singling Wit, I understand why. If Wit steps forward off of that race, he could absolutely win. But I just don't think he provides a lot of value in what I think is a great rendition of the Sanford. My top selection actually breaks to that one's outside, and that's number 2, Candy Landing, who was very impressive first time out at Churchill Downs. You see those fractions, 21-2, 44-2. He doesn't just last, he wins by 4.5 lengths. That's a very impressive debut for a guy in Brendan Walsh whose horses sometimes need a little bit to come around. I think Candy Landing could well be a very nice horse. A couple of other very nice horses in here, though. The one of the other 3 that I'm using that'll take some money is number 9, Headline Report. It's a Wesley Ward 2-year-old, so of course broke the maiden at Keeneland, and this was a horse that did so in very fast fashion. John Velasquez riding. I'm going to use a couple of other horses that are 10-1 on the morning line, and David, I think you got that exactly right with both of these. Pause for a moment. How good is it to see Gary Contessa with a live horse in a graded stakes race at Saratoga? Feels really good. One of the good guys. Very happy he's back training. Very happy that he's got some live ones. And this one, Marilyn Brando, horse number 6 in your program, broke the maiden by 11.5 lengths. I understand it was at Delaware Park. We're not entirely sure what he beat, but that day's 3rd place finisher did come back to win, which is at least something. And I see a bullet work on the page. Got to throw that horse in, and also need to throw in a horse named Ottoman Empire, horse number 7, trained by Tom Amos, and a professional winner last time out. You don't see too many horses rallying from being well back at 5 furlongs to win. Yes, Wit did that, but Wit's going to be less than 2-1. Give me the other Ortiz brother on a closer who made a similar move at 5 times the price. I'm going to try to beat Wit in here. If Wit beats me, I'll live with it. But for the sake of value on this ticket, I'm maxing out my usual budget of $40. Spoiler alert. So I'm going to need to try to make some money by taking a stand. And in this particular instance, I'm not using Wit. If Wit beats me, he beats me.
Former podcast guest, Gary Contessa. I mean, you missed that one, Andrew. That's a great show to go back in the archives and dig out.
What a good guy.
I look at this very simply, Andrew, and seeing the rest of my ticket, this will make a little more sense. But I'm taking a big stand here with the 9 Headline Report. You mentioned some of the things. Obviously, Wesley Ward, is going to make the first try at the Keeneland meet. That makes perfect sense. But I don't think Johnny V actually ever rode this horse. I think the horse just kind of coasted, and he never asked the horse. And obviously, the horse, took a month off from training after that, and it's just been good work after good work with a couple bullets mixed in, a 4 furlong and 48-1, a 5 furlong and 59-3. Everything I want to see here. I look at the effort put forth by a couple of the other runners in this race to win. Witt was really driven hard, showed some impressive things for a 2-year-old, but was really asked to get the job done. And I just saw Headline Report coasting to a win. I mean, what did Headline Report beat? We don't really know at this point, but really that was an eye-opening performance for me. So a little lighter on the speed figures than a couple of the other horses in this field, but it was the most visually impressive for me. And doing my video work, I'm just going to single Headline Report here. And David, tell us all why we are idiots for not having the morning line favorite.
I mean, I think when you get to this race in the sequence, you kind of have to decide for yourself whether you think it's going to be chalky or whether it's going to actually pay. And I sided on the chalky side, which I don't like to do. But in a race like this, it's either I toss Witt and I use some long shots like Andrew did, or I should say some bigger prices, because this is the kind of race where everyone's going to be a bigger price than Witt. Or you just kind of side with the favorite, because spreading and using Witt is it's not the way you want to go. You don't want to spread and use a favorite.
And you don't want to incur the wrath of the ticket police on Twitter either.
Exactly. I know that is a mortal sin. So I'm just going to single Witt in this race on a very light ticket, which you'll see when we get the next 2 races. But yeah, I have nothing clever to say about Witt's debut. I mean, you can watch the replay and see it for yourself. He didn't get out of the gate. I think Jose Ortiz, who was riding him that day, would have liked to have actually gotten into the race a little bit quicker than he did, but he encountered a bit of traffic a furlong into the race, swung him to the outside, and he was just in a completely different league than those horses. He ran one of the fastest speed figures of anybody in this race, and he did so with significant trouble. So I just feel like he's probably better than this field, and I'm going to disagree with something Andrew said. Even though it's a big field, I don't think it's a field of high quality. I just feel like there's a lot of filler in this race. So, I mean, if Witt can work out a trip and kind of navigate all the traffic, assuming that he doesn't break as alertly as some others again, I think he's probably just better than these horses. And I couldn't quite get to the 2 other alternatives, Candy Landing and Headline Report. Candy Landing ran fine in the debut. He got a similar speed figure to Witt, but I thought that he got a pretty good trip stalking the pace. They went reasonably fast up front, but I'm not sure how good that field was overall at Churchill. And, we've seen a lot of 2-year-old racing so far this year, a lot more than we had seen at this point last year during the pandemic when there was that long stretch of having no racing. And even though we've seen a lot of 2-year-olds debut, I don't think we've seen a lot of high quality 2-year-old racing so far. So I'm just still looking for some of these horses, especially these male 2-year-old horses, to run some faster speed figures. And, we didn't get a buyer for Headline Report's debut. I think the Time Form US number has him kind of on par with some other major players in this race. But I don't know. I mean, I looked at that field at Keeneland. He wasn't beating that much. I thought it was a decent performance. But Wesley Ward, he's focused his program so much in recent years on getting these 2-year-olds to win in Europe on the turf. And I feel like sometimes these dirt races during the summer are almost an afterthought for Wesley. He's not even necessarily pointing his best horses to them. And I was looking up some stats over the past 5 years in NYRA Formulator, and horses coming off debut wins that are 2-year-olds for Wesley Ward in graded stakes on the dirt, he's only had like 3 or 4 starters in the past 5 years, which I just found astounding, and he hasn't won with any of them. So I don't know. I just feel like Headline Report's probably not one of his best 2-year-olds. So I landed on Witt. I know he's going to be a short price. That's why my ticket's going to be really thin. I'm just not expecting it to pay that much.
Completely understand, and those are the decisions you have to make when you're structuring this sort of ticket. For me personally, I see a 12-horse field. Witt might win. He might make me look like an idiot. He might just be the best horse in the field. At his likely price, I'm definitely going to be going price shopping. Now, you may have noticed, by the way, our producer / co-host is having some issues with his video and with his internet. I personally, I don't think he's ever looked better. I think we're in a really good spot right now, and I think
very happy.
It's never been a more aesthetically pleasing show. I don't think. I think we're in a really good place right now as we move on to race number 10. Race number 10 is the Grade 1 Diana. We've got a field of 8 runners signed on for this one, and it is a very, very accomplished field of older turf distaffers going that mile and an 1/8 distance. Your favorite on the morning line is number 7, Lamista, a Chad Brown trainee who last year won several group races over in Europe, came over here, ran second in the Grade 3 Bogey down at Belmont, goes second off of a long layoff, first off of what is technically a layoff in the daily racing form, but 2 months between races is pretty much the norm at this level, unfortunately. You got Harvey's Little Goyle at 3-1, but I'm going elsewhere in a completely different direction here, because I was really impressed with the top 2 finishers from the Grade 1 Just a Game. And you can't really see it down here in the ticket yet, but you're going to need to take my word for it in that I'm using number 6, Summer Romance. There we go. And number 8, Altica. Altica got the better of Summer Romance that day. I liked Summer Romance more going into that spot, and Summer Romance ran her race. She was loose on the lead beneath Luis Saez and just got run down by Mike Smith aboard Altica. And look, for as much as a lot of people just bash Mike Smith and his rides on the turf over the past couple of years, that was a thing of beauty in the Just the Game, what he was able to do with that horse, weaving through traffic, saving all the ground, and giving that horse every possible chance to win. Now, as I say that, I'm going to back Summer Romance on top simply because I think 1 1/8 will agree with her more than it'll agree with Altica. And I'm going off of the race 2 back over at Maidan, where Summer Romance won by 2 1/4 lengths and Altica was third, beaten 3. Both of these, however, are very good horses trained by Charlie Appleby, who is one of Europe's top horsemen and a guy who, when he ships to the United States, it is not for frequent flyer miles. These horses can run. And if you're telling me that neither of these 2 horses are going to go favored, A, I think you're right. B, okay. I'll absolutely take the 3-1 on Altica. I'll take the 4-1 on Summer Romance. The hardest omission from my ticket, and if there is a scratch somewhere else, I will be throwing in this horse. I've always been a fan of Harvey's Little Goyle. I think she's a very cool horse, a horse that's a multiple graded stakes winner on turf, won the Grade 1 QE2 last fall over at Keeneland, had enough class to run 3rd in the Alabama behind Swiss Skydiver. This is a really fun horse to root for. I wouldn't be stunned if she ran well. I just prefer the 2 Appleby runners, Summer Romance and Altica, and I am going against Lamista a little bit. I just feel like she was supposed to win last time out and didn't. And I look at the races overseas, and as much as I want to subscribe to the notion that most European horses come here because they want firmer ground, I see the races she ran over Yielding going at the Curragh. I see the race she ran over Heavy going at Nace. I see soft going over at Gorin Park. I don't see a lot of good form. I don't see a lot of firm form. I see a lot of soft, heavy form. And if the weather holds up, fingers, toes, and eyes all crossed as I knock on the nearest sense of wood imaginable, we're not going to get a soft turf course for this particular race. And while she might have the ability to win, I prefer others. So I'm going to go 6-8 here. And JD, are you potentially with us or no? He's not, but he is still able to produce. I believe he's switching over to his phone for this one. So, David, tell me why everything I just said is wrong.
Well, as you can see from my ticket, I am going in the opposite direction here. I mean, there are 4 major players in this race.
That's what makes this such a fun show sometimes.
Yes, I'm downgrading the 2 that you like and upgrading the 2 that you left off. I think in this race, you kind of have to make a decision for yourself how strong you think the Just a Game was, because, you know, it always attracts a nice field, a competitive field. It's a fun Grade 1 on a day of many Grade 1s. It's kind of that summer Breeders' Cup day on Belmont Stakes Day. And this year, while the Just a Game was a very competitive race, I don't know if it lived up to its Grade 1 designation. And that's some of the reason why those Charlie Appleby horses were able to dominate. I mean, let's remember, the morning line favorite in the Just a Game was Blowout. And I don't think anybody is, as much as I'm a fan of Blowout, I don't think anybody's mistaking Blowout as one of the top horses in this division. And, once you got past her, the public just settled on Pocket Square, who's in this race. And I mean, nothing against, Chad Brown to this Juddmonte filly, but Pocket Square was coming off a non-winners of 2 victory against a pretty subpar field at Keeneland. I mean, she was visually impressive, and that's why she got bet in the Just a Game. But I mean, to me, the Just a Game was kind of a Grade 2 race at best. And when I'm comparing the quality of that race to the Grade 3 Bogey that Lamista and Harvey's Little Goyle come out of, I think they're races of comparable quality. I mean, Harvey's Little Goyle, she proved how good she was last year when she won the QE2 at Keeneland, when she was a good third in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, outrunning her odds. I mean, getting really close to some good Europeans in that race, as well as Rushing Fall, who was the champion. And I thought she proved in that Bogey that she's come back every bit as good as a 4-year-old. The race flow of the Bogey, I think, is important to mention because they went really slow in the opening portion of the race. And Harvey's Little Goyle did have a bit of the advantage getting to make that first move over Lamista, who was coming at her at the end. To my eye, I don't think Lamista was ever going by Harvey's Little Goyle that day. She kind of got to her, and she did run a much faster closing split, but I thought Harvey's Little Goyle kind of kicked on again at the wire and held her off. Chad Brown's obviously pointed at this race with Lamista, and when he surveys his entire stable and says, "This is my Diana horse," I think that's pretty meaningful because obviously Chad Brown, it's been widely reported that he's going for his 6th consecutive victory in the Diana. So this is a race that is very important to him to win. So we'll see if Lamista is able to improve on the Bogey, because I think that she'll have to win this race. I'm giving the slight edge to Harvey's Little Goyle. She's my top pick. I like her tactical speed a little bit more, but I do want the 2 horses coming out of that race. And I'm just not quite sure about the quality of the 2 Godolphin horses. I really don't like Altica going 1 1/8. To me, a mile is the absolute max for her. She's got that sprinter turn of foot that she was able to use last time. I don't see her getting this distance. And Summer Romance, she's totally loose on the lead. I'm just not sure if she has the late kick to hold off some of these horses if they're in range of her at the top of the stretch. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but I want the Bogey horses.
Gotcha. Now, I did just get a text message, unfortunately, from JD, who has said that his power has just gone out and that he can't adjust the shot without screwing up the formatting. So I'm going to make the executive decision here as the backup quarterback. We're going to magically show JD's ticket right down here. He is going 5 deep using horses 1, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So he's sort of taking our horses and also adding in a horse that I believe he has bet in every one of her 18 starts. That's number 1, the LASIO, who last time out was 2nd in the Grade 1 Gamely, 3rd in the Jenny Wiley. And I acknowledge that this horse has some back class. I just think may need a little bit more pace than she's likely to get. I certainly think she can run 2nd or 3rd if everything breaks well, but I see a horse that's won just once since March of 2019. JD will likely get an enhanced price based on that. It's not like she hasn't been competitive, so can certainly understand how and why La Signore is on his ticket, especially since he's taking a little bit of a stand in leg number 2 of this sequence and singling a horse that isn't the favorite, opening him up to a nice score if La Signore has everything breaking her way. So 5 deep for him, 2 deep for each of us. We all completely split off in a bunch of different directions. It's one of those types of races, and that's the hallmark of Saratoga. These are hard races. If you're a handicapper and you're looking at these races day in and day out, there are going to be days where you go over. That is what is known as a given in the scientific world. You take them, you move on, you regroup, and you come back when you've got strong opinions. That's what Saratoga is known for, those tough days. And they don't get particularly easy, David, in race number 11, the payoff leg of this sequence. We've got a field of 9 going 7 furlongs. These are maidens, and my goodness, you take a look at that purse, it's a $100,000 maiden race. Still trying to get used to that. Now, it's a 9-horse field. I do think the favorite is somewhat legitimate. That's number 7, Ducale, off of a very nice 2nd last time out at Churchill Downs, where he was beaten just a half length. Having said that, though, this is a good field. This is a field of horses that have all been close. This is a field of horses that in some cases tend to find some trouble but still manage to be right there. I'm going 5 deep in here to try to finish this off. And as you can see, I'm maxing out my usual $40 budget. It's a soft budget that I have. I just don't feel comfortable giving out tickets that are much more expensive than that. At $40, most handicappers who look at the card can find some way to play it or trim down or what have you. So that's the most that I'll play it for. Ducale's my top pick, but you can see there, it's not a particularly enthusiastic one. I'm going to take a closer look at the 2 horses on the inside because I do think there's going to be some value with both of them. Number 2, Cool Quest, showed a lot of speed last time out at Churchill Downs, wound up fading, was 4th that day, but I can't get over that July 7th work. Saratoga's supposed to be a pretty slow track, and Cool Quest went 46-3 for a half. okay, yep, got to use that horse. And I'm going to get a little crazy with the cheese whiz on you here. Number 1 Crump was 7-1 in the debut last September. Misses the break, and it seemed like Corey Lanery just took care of the horse. To me, that's a complete throwout. I am not using that against him. And there are some steady works on the tab back at Churchill. Nice maintenance move on July 10th. And Brendan Walsh does very well with horses coming in off of long layoffs. At his likely price, I've got to have him on my ticket. Maybe he's just not good enough, but he's certainly better than what he showed. And if he's able to break through at a big price and I don't have him on my ticket, this is going to be what I'm doing. Minus the hand. I will literally just go head first into a door. It's not going to be a pretty sight. But I'm going 5 deep in here. 1, 2, 4, 7, and 9. $40 ticket. And if we can beat Witt in leg number 2, I think we've got the potential to have a really, really nice score. Disembodied producer, where are we going next? Let's see. David, on to you.
Well, I'll just make a minor correction and actually ask you a question, because I made Askin for a Baskin the favorite, and I'm curious to know what you don't like about that horse. I mean, he seems like clearly the horse to beat to me.
Carol Baskin killed her husband and fed him to the tiger. No, on a serious note, I'm looking at that, and yes, he ran an okay second last time out. I see a 63 to a 93 buyer. I just think maybe that horse is going to bounce. And Jeremiah Engelhardt is a very, very good horseman. I have a lot of respect for that outfit and for his barn. The other thing I'm not all that crazy about is that horse supposedly ran really well last time, right? So why are they adding blinkers here? To me, it seems like trying to fix something that may or may not be broken. Now, Jeremiah Engelhardt obviously knows his horse a hell of a lot more than I do, and maybe this horse is well meant, but off of one race in the mud and off of one drill over the Oklahoma track, I just preferred others. And if Asking for a Baskin goes off favored, that'll drive up the price on everybody else. And it's a case where I think a lot of the other horses figure sort of evenly. So if I go 5 deep without including the favorite there, it tells you I don't have a lot of confidence in that particular horse. Maybe he does go favored. And I'm looking at this thinking, okay, yep, Errata Jr., 93 buyer. Chase the horse we've already talked about, and if Mahamel wins the first leg of the pick 4, maybe I'm just completely wrong, but prefer others, at least at this juncture, and I'm going 5 deep without using that horse. You, however, are using that horse. I understand why. If he takes that muddy track form with him over to a fast track at Saratoga, maybe he wins.
Yeah, I'm not saying I love this horse. As you can tell, he's the favorite, and this is a race where I spread. So, I think he's one of many that could win this race. And I don't think, even if he is favored, he's going to be that substantial of a favorite, despite that gaudy speed figure from last time. Those are legitimate questions. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like when trainers make changes after big performances, and adding the blinkers is a little weird. Jeremiah Engelhardt is one of the few trainers who does okay with blinker additions. A lot of trainers have poor numbers with that trainer move. So maybe that's just something that he likes to do when he's getting serious. As for the turf try in his debut, Asking for a Baskin, if you watch him run, he's a horse with a really high knee action. And sometimes trainers who see that just say to themselves, well, maybe this horse is going to like the turf because of the way his legs move. That was not the case. He's got all dirt pedigree. So, I think they just got on the right surface last time. And that Mahamel race, we talked about Mahamel already. He got a 99 buyer. This horse got a 93. I was a little skeptical when I first saw the number, but 2 horses have come back that have legitimized that performance. Lemon Drop Road, who's in this race, he came back and repeated his 86 buyer. Repo Rocks, who's running much earlier in the day on this Saturday card, he came back and also he won out of the race and repeated his speed figure. So it seems like it's a totally legitimate number. And if he runs it back, I think he's going to be really tough. But there's a lot of talent in this race. I've got no problem with a horse like Ducale. Brad Cox, he does get it a little bit over bet second time out. I think people think that he's better with that move than he actually is, and the ROI is actually much lower than you might expect. But he's a contender. I would imagine Laughing Boy on the outside might have to scratch. I just saw that news that the Ken McPeak barn is under quarantine because of equine herpes virus. So that's really bad news for him. Unfortunately, that horse might have to come out. We'll see if he's stabled in that barn. I agree with you, though, that the number 2, Cool Quest, is really interesting. I actually made him my top pick on this race. The horse that won that last race at Churchill, Robo Man, looked looks like he's really talented. And he just, I think, surprised this horse coming to the quarter pole because Roboman had such a turn of foot that he ran by this horse. I think before Cool Quest even had a chance, or his rider, Drayden Van Dyke, had a chance to respond. And he actually battled on pretty gamely through the stretch to almost reclaim second. He was only beaten, I think, less than a length for second, despite just kind of getting run over at the top of the stretch. So I think Cool Quest hasn't moved forward in him. And Brian Lynch is a trainer, especially these days, that just doesn't focus on getting horses to win first time out anymore. So he's likely to improve second time out. And I think he's the fastest early, especially if that number 9 does come out of the race. I think that gives Cool Quest a real pace advantage.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's something I didn't hear about with Ken McPeak's barn. My goodness, there have been a couple instances this year where he's just been snake bit with rotten luck and rotten timing. He had King Fury, of course, in the Kentucky Derby, had to scratch. Thought King Fury had a big chance, but given the way I succeeded in handicapping the Kentucky Derby and will not be giving my Medina Spirit money back unless you pry it from my cold, dead hands. I'm not
Same here.
Attaboy. Attaboy. If you didn't bet Medina Spirit at 12-1 with being a Bob Baffert, that's your own fault. Now, disembodied producer in the sky, what does JD have to finish out his pick for? Okay, a lot of big numbers, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The only one that we didn't talk about in his in our dissertations was Aban, who hasn't run since October, but I see what JD likes in this horse. You see Todd Pletcher getting the horse. You see Luis Saez coming on. You see a first-time gelding move. You see steady works. I just think it's a 2-turn horse. I think this is a horse that's running here as a prep for potentially going longer down the road. But could Aban potentially wake up with a barn switch to one of the greatest trainers in the history of the sport? Guy that's going into the Hall of Fame? Yeah, that could happen. It's a good field. It's a really good sequence, and I can see why JD included him. It's a $40 ticket for him. It's a $40 ticket for me. It's an $18 ticket for David, and you can see our tickets scrolling through down there. Take parts of our tickets you like, throw out parts of them that you don't. The important thing is get involved. This is a really good card on Saturday at Saratoga. Look, it's a Saturday at Saratoga. Most of them are going to be pretty good cards. This one, no exception. So get involved, enjoy the proceedings, and have a good time with Saratoga. And look, if you go to Saratoga and you can't have a good time doing something, what the heck is wrong with you? Let's just be real. So with that in mind, it is time for our final thoughts segment, and I'm just going to guess that JD is bequeathing his time to both of us unless he just barges in unannounced and interrupts both of us, which I would not put past him for his potential for dramatics. He's a fellow wrestling fan, so I'm half expecting to hear like Edge's entrance music at some point and somebody coming in off here to like spear me off. But at any rate, David, I'll let you go first. This is a segment where we can expound on anything that's going on in our mind. There's obviously a lot going on around thoroughbred horse racing with the start of Saratoga, the start of Del Mar, the start of Monmouth, stuff going on off the track that I'm deliberately not touching. David, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that long-winded about it. It's kind of obvious. I mean, getting back to Saratoga is just the story right now. And after missing it last year, I'm just really excited to go back there to, experience that, having fans there again. And, I've seen some chatter on social media this past week about whether or not Saratoga is all it's cracked up to be. It is. I mean, the town is awesome. It's a town that lives and breathes horse racing. Horse racing is romanticized there. The history of horse racing is romanticized there. And as a racing fan, I don't know what's better. So I'm just looking forward to getting back there. I'm so happy that fans are able to get back there. And it's just an exciting time in horse racing. So those are my thoughts.
That's for darn sure. I'm jealous of you. I'm jealous of everybody that's going to get a chance to be there and experience that kind of atmosphere. I've said it a couple of times on this program. I feel like before the pandemic, there were a lot of things that we took for granted. Day at Saratoga might have been one of those things for a lot of people. There are a lot of people at Saratoga today, and it looked like there was a lot of gratitude going on in the stands to have the opportunity to be there, which was really cool to see. Again, shout out to the Fox Sports crew. Y'all did great work. And on that note, I'm going to stick in the media production side of things because we lost Harvey Pack last week. And look, he was 94. When you're past 90, it does become a celebration of life. That term gets used liberally a lot. You're past 90, it is a celebration of life and everything you were able to do. To put it simply, without Harvey Pack, there's a very good chance this show and other podcasts like it do not exist. Harvey Pack was the first guy to make talking about racing in a public forum seemed cool. And he was the best at it that I ever saw. The soundtrack to my childhood was Tom Durkin over the PA system right in about here. And it was going home and it was seeing Harvey Pack on Thoroughbred Action and Inside Racing. There were things that he said that even me as a kid, I was able to get and learn from. That's something that not a lot of communicators can do, being able to relate to handicappers of all ages, all backgrounds, all skill levels. That sounds easy to you? Try it sometime. It's absolutely not. I wrote a tribute to Harvey Pack. It's up on my website, andrewchampagne.com. You can go searching around for it and taking a look. It presents a lot in how he was able to do what he did and the lessons that I think a lot of people in racing could learn from that. So I know a lot of people have already read it. If you have and you've sent something to me, know that I appreciate it. Know that I appreciate you. If you haven't read it, go take a look. And if you don't know who Harvey Pack was, you're going to want the education, because this guy was just plain cool and he inspired a lot, and I mean a lot of people. So that's pretty much it for me. And given that we haven't heard, hard rock music from over here with pyrotechnics and fireworks and a crowd going, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, I think that's pretty much going to be it for this particular episode of Champagne and JD. Special thanks to David Aragona for joining us on a Thursday night, the first Thursday of the Saratoga meet, when he has about 9,000 other things to do. David, how can people keep up with you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at Horse to Watch. I'll be tweeting out all my opinions about the Saratoga races and my handicapping opinions. You can catch my analysis on NYRA.com/timeformUS or DRF.com. So those are the main places.
You got a lot going on and a lot of irons in the fire, and I respect the heck out of that. David, thank you so much. JD, thank you very much for doing everything that you've done in the midst of everything that's going on in your neck of the woods right now. Know that I really appreciate you, and know that, hey, we're both rooting for each other to take down this Saturday late pick 4. David, if I can't win, if he can't win, I hope you do. And no matter what your opinion is, get involved. It's Saturday at Saratoga. Come on, people. If you're thinking about not playing, what are you doing? Anyway, that concludes this week's edition of Champagne and JD. If you like what we do, go on down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. For JD Fox, I am Andrew Champagne signing off. Stay off the beaches, everybody.